Sneaky Snick, good afternoon. Did I miss the F4 Phantom Stream? You did not miss the F4 Phantom Stream. I have not yet done an F4 Phantom Stream. I really want to do one, but am short for time because I have to do all this inking, and I'm working on a commission for doing illustrations for a writer who's wants illustration for his book, and so I really do want to do an F4 Phantom Stream, though. I know you love military vehicles and all that. Hopefully this comic book inking stream is suitable alters of Sneaky Snack. Glad that you're as diligent as a bee. Try to be. Consistency is key. Sneaky Snack, are those sailors? These guys are not sailors. Good guess. I mean, with the hats and stuff. So this guy is a ranger, a forest ranger, and this guy's a cop. So he's a police officer, and they are looking up. Because they have a partner, a superhero in their town called Spirit Girl. And she went seeking higher ground. So she could get a good view because they're tracking whatever killed a bison in their town and caused a raging stampede in issue number 1. I think that, let me try it. Bring this lower. This. How's that? You find that's better? This guy Tom, the police officer, is wearing cop shades. Sneaky Snick, I thought this was a murder mystery of some sort. When you mentioned the forest ranger and police officer, didn't know you made superhero comics. Well, it sort of is a murder mystery. It's, well, spoiler alert, it will become a murder mystery. But for now, it's like a cattle murder mystery. Yeah, it's kind of a mix of superhero and fantasy. But it's set in the land of Northland, and issue 1 of the comic has a map of this land, and it's based on Canada, but it's not Canada, but it's inspired by the spirit of Canada. So there's a lot of majestic mountains and rural areas, and this place in particular, the town that our superhero comes from, is called Hairy Bear, and the superhero character Spirit Girl she patrols the Bear Valley to help fire safety and police officers, forest rangers, search and rescue. And she's new at this superhero business, and on her patrol, she finds these bison that are stampeding. And this is what the subject of the first issue is, which will be out soon. This is just like an ashcan mock-up edition. This is the map here, and yeah, so she's got to deal with this bison rampage. She helps out and discovers with her friends that one of the bison has been eviscerated, so they set out in search. That's his rifle. his hunting rifle. The cop in particular looks very well drawn. Thank you. Turn the fan on here. Sneaky Snick, I think you might like the game Firewatch. You know, I actually played the game Firewatch. I don't remember a lot about it, but you're right. It is like an interactive movie. It's like a interactive story, you know, in a sense. And yeah, it's kind of interesting. You know, it expresses the isolation of, you know, the wilderness very well. Yeah, it was an interesting and entertaining game. We gotta fill this all in here. So actually what I'm going to do, I'm just going to draw an outline. And I'll go fill it in black in Photoshop after I've scanned this in. Save myself some work. Paranoia 2, I think. This whole game, the protagonist fears of some kind of conspiracy, yeah. There was another game that was like that, like interactive story thing. It's called What Became of Edith Finch? I think that's what it's called. I gotta switch pen here. I'll switch to my dip pen. Always test the pen first. Switching to dip pen, I can do a little bit more detail work. As long as I control the flow of my ink properly. Because the dip pen is very sharp as opposed to this here, which is a little bit more blunt. But the ink dries a lot more slowly, so I have to be careful not to rub against that area, because it'll smear all over the place. So, do you have experience in the military or family experience in the military? Or are you just knowledgeable about military vehicles because it's an interest of yours? How did you come to know a lot about military vehicles? Maybe through video games? So you learn about military vehicles through video games and documentaries, but also in school. Aha, so they taught you the good stuff. So these figures I can draw super small and don't have to put a lot of details in them, because when this gets printed, it's gonna shrink about 40%. So makes no sense to like get my magnifying glass and do everything extremely detailed like that. So snow drifts. So I gotta do all of these trees here. Sneaky snacky. It's a shame that World War One gets glossed over a bit in history class, but I understand why they can't teach it in more depth. Well, I wonder why. If you're interested about World War One, Valiant Hearts is a nice interactive movie type game. Good to know. You know, I do like history, and I find that I can keep modern history straight in my mind a lot better than older history. Currently reading about the history in the 16th century. French and Italians, Portugal, I guess European history of the High Middle Ages. But it's a history that starts, thousands of years ago, but then goes to almost present day. And I found I needed to read the book backwards in order to keep everything straight. Start with the familiar stuff first. Start with the stuff that I've seen a lot, like Soviet Union, Cold War, going back to Vietnam War era and World War II and One and so forth. Some pretty interesting figures. A lot of intrigue, and I often wonder what it must have been like being a normal, non-aristocrat in those days. You didn't even know who you knew your nation's ruler, but you may not even know what they looked like, right? There's no photographs. Paintings is something that, not a lot of people see. The only artwork you would have seen was, well, a little bit, artisan stuff. So pottery and that sort of thing. And then stained glass window in church, and that would have all been like educational, right? Like it would have been scenes about Jesus and Mary and all this stuff. But you wouldn't even have known what the king looks like or anything. Sneaky snack, do you mean the peasants or lower middle class? Yes, exactly. Like if you're a farmer in the 14th century, 15th century, 16th century, you knew your family and the people in your village, and that's pretty much it. And sometimes some traveling merchants, and news traveled by rumor. No newspaper, no TV, no internet. In a way, it must have been peaceful, just focused on the task at hand, focused on getting the crops in for the family, and focused on your little town, ways of making it better. You're not scrolling Twitter to find out about, Kamala Harris or whatever people on Twitter are talking about these days. Clear mind. I don't know. Maybe I'm idealizing it, romanticizing it, because I don't know about it. I do appreciate indoor plumbing. One of my favorite things in the world. I actually like working on plumbing. I sometimes do it as part of my job. And I find it rewarding when you get it done right. Changing a valve or something like that. I like it. Put in a new drain and it doesn't leak. Satisfying. But if I could, I'd do this for a living. Dreaming up stories. Drawing trees. It's relaxing. These first pages of the comic, their purpose is just to get the readers, familiar with the characters and the way they talk and stuff, and kind of establish where they're at, what their plan is. Have you retired from being a plumber, or is that just a skill I possess? I'm not retired. I've still got a ways to go before I retire. But yeah, it's a skill I picked up in my day-to-day goings-on. And I've picked up a lot of different skills, which is useful. A little bit of carpentry, a little bit of drywall, commercial painting, just a lot of different like handyman skills. So this is the page 2. I'm gonna leave that uninked because I think I'll do the this in screen tone. His metal is a bit off center, but it's no big deal. Nice transition, thank you. It's gonna look more balanced when I have the word balloons in there. But yeah, it's they're asking the superhero some questions, and she's flying up and looking over the tree line here, and she's reporting back what she sees, and all she sees are these crows. These crows are going to come back later in the story. We're going to get started on page 3. Which is a hiking scene for the most part. Have you ever made a comic or a panel in noir style? You know what? I have, and they come later. So this story starts out quite wholesome and light, and gradually becomes a little bit more noir because they continue this hike into the night. So yeah, if you tune in later, you'll see some more noirish stuff for sure. Do you like the noir style? I like it. I love there's a comic called Sin City that's done in the noir style. That's an incredibly well drawn comic. It's very masterful. It's the cop. I'll screen tone this instead of doing black in Photoshop. It's funny, I went to a used bookstore, and he sells a lot of old. Here, I better do the panel borders in this one because the panel borders are very important in this case. So yeah, I went to this used bookstore, and he was selling a lot of old science fiction short story anthology magazines, and I thumbed through some of them, and the art style was very reminiscent of what Frank Miller did in Sin City. And I thought to myself, I wonder if he studied these anthologies from the 1930s. To the 1950s. Really reminded me of Frank Miller's work in Sin City. Sneaky Snack wasn't a movie made of that film. Yes, it was. Highly recommend checking out the comics. you can get the collected editions. And what's nice is you can pick up any volume, and it'll be a story. You don't have to start at volume 1 and then go to volume 2. Like, every volume has some stories in it that you can follow along. It's very much worth checking out. This inking process is going a lot faster now that I don't have to do any, or hardly any, dipping into my ink. Issue 1 I did completely in dip pen just to learn that tool. Now I'm using a shaped sharp tip felt pen called the Pentel Touch. What I like about this pen is that it is responsive to pressure, so I can thicken my line by adding pressure. What I don't like is the texture of the line when I do a quick line, but it's a trade-off. Last one. Naturally, this pen tends to make thick lines, so I gotta be careful. Otherwise, the line will go on too thick. Sneaky Snick. This comic will go darker as it progresses. Do you mean that in a visual, thematic way? Well, I believe that the visuals in comic books should reflect the thematic content. So, both. I think you can communicate a lot of emotion and tone and atmosphere through the artwork, and you should. I published an article on my Substack today about the compositions of the artist Albrecht Dürer, who's a 16th and 17th century artist, and he was a master at composing images that had thematic kind of messages within the artwork. The compositions reflected the themes of what he was depicting in the images. So I'm far from a master, but I try to pay attention and apply what I can, apply what I've learned, if I can. So this is another character in the book, a dog named Shauna. She's Ranger Dave's dog, and she's helping them follow the track, like kind of sniff down the tracks of whatever attacked the bison. Yeah, a lot of animals in this comic book. Animals are going to be important in this story. Sneaky Snick, good question. What time period is this set in? I'm deciding that I'm gonna do like the Batman the Animated Series. I don't know if you ever watched that. It came out in the 90s. And it's clearly set in the 1930s, but they also have computers and cell phones and you know, so but all the architecture and everything is from the 30s, the car designs and all that. So I'm going to do kind of a blended model like that. So far, that's what I'm leaning towards. I'm thinking 80s, but you know, maybe they do have computers, but you know, honestly, I haven't decided. So far, it's no phones, no computers in this one. So maybe I'll just straight up say it's the 80s, right? Big Sip, sup my dude, sup my dude indeed. Welcome aboard. Just inking a hiking scene here, talking about all sorts of things. I never knew it was set in the 30s, so your answer is to make it ubiquitous then. Your answer is to make it ubiquitous. Ubiquitous, like as in, I'm not sure how you're using that word. Ubiquitous meaning it's everywhere, it's all pervading. Big Sip, it's looking great. Thank you. Appreciate the encouragement. Much appreciated. A lot of close-ups of shoes and stuff here. Mysterious. Yeah. Yeah, I kind of, I think you mean ambiguous. Ambiguous, that's the word. Yeah. Like, I don't think I need to, you know, write a caption box that says, the year 1987. I can just kind of tell the story, and it's the same with that Batman the animated series. They don't tell you the era it's set in. So you're asking me about the tools I'm using, Sakura pens. These are the Pentel Touch. They're just called Pentel Touch, and they have a sharp nib with a little bit of flex, so I can vary the line weight with pressure. And I'm using a little bit of this for fine detail. This is an experiment, switching to these, and I will probably here and there use this Pentel synthetic brush pen. But most of the hard work is going to be this. It's the grunt work, inking, outlines, that sort of thing. I've been using it in my sketchbook and in my warm-ups, and I'm enjoying the feel of it, so I'm going to just try this, see how it goes. Yeah, let's chats. This is busy chat today. There's this short horror film called Forrest Gump, Sneaky Snack. It's around 3 minutes long, but the visuals look very realistic. The behind-the-scenes video about it is also very interesting. Cool. Big Sip. Brush pen is the OG. Well, news to me. I don't know too much about like I'm not like a materials nerd. I just did a little bit of research, and this one seemed like a good one to have. And I'm trying to very kind of make wobbly lines on this shoe sole to express wear, and also that there's maybe snow or debris stuck on there. My pencils are pretty precise, and I want to mess it up a bit. You're walking in the snow, there's bits of snow and stuff stuck to your shoe. It's gonna be time to take a break soon because I'm new to the inking process there. I've been penciling for a long time, so, and I changed my setup. I don't have my flat drawing board, so my back and neck are getting sore. I'll do a few more. So you see how it's pressure sensitive? Big sip. You know, I struggle with when comic artists block out with chunks of black. It always comes out looking funny. Have you tried it? Yes, I do like. Yeah, I do like doing that. This scene is daytime winter scene, so it's everything is light reflected onto the snow, and that makes everything kind of harsh lighting. But as the story progresses, it gets darker because they keep hiking at nighttime, and the subject matter becomes darker. They become more desperate, they become more worried, and they get closer and closer to something evil. So I'm going to use more pooling blacks, and I'm going to pay attention to my black spotting. It's called black spotting, which is to be deliberate about where your pools of black fall, because it directs the eye. It pulls the eye in certain directions, and you need to be deliberate and thoughtful about that. But some artists work almost exclusively in line work, and they don't do pool shading or black spotting at all. They do pay attention to their values. So, like, I was studying Albrecht Dürer, and I published an article about him on my Substack this morning, and he does pay attention to where he kind of clumps his lines. So when his line work becomes more busy in certain areas, he's deliberate about that. So he'll keep that in certain areas to make the composition make sense, you know. Metaphoric, isn't it? And when do you think you'll be doing it? So I can take a nosy. Doing what? No. Do you mean the pooling the blacks? If that's what you mean, it shouldn't be that long. Well, I'm gonna finish this panel, and we'll look through the pages, and we'll see. Should be soon. Because here, this page, this is bottom panel. It's like, oh my God, what's going on? And you want to turn the page, right? And then that's when they start to realize, like, this is not just a bison rampage problem. This is a murder scene. So they go after that, they go after them, and then they keep hiking, and eventually, the woods, psychologically to them starts to appear more scary, so there's going to be more black spotting and that sort of thing. And the moon's going to come out, right? So in a few pages, so in a day or two. The wolf, eh? Where's the wolf? This guy here? That's the dog Shana. Definitely some wolves coming up here in this double page spread. Lots of wolf action there. But we're gonna call it for today. Give my body a rest. I am going to wish you a nice day. I hope you have a good afternoon, evening, whatever it is where you are. Best of luck with everything, and take care. See you in the next one.